Let's address the dragon in the room first. Let's take China. Because in diplomacy, you have to be careful. You can't be too open. You can't talk about everything. The house where we were staying was completely on the roof, ringed by security guards. All with proper machine guns. We have a red color passport. Red color passport. So it's a privilege given to us. Let's take the one we have, maybe the biggest conflict, Pakistan. But on the whole, it's been a great journey. I've enjoyed every moment of it. And if I was ever to live again and make another choice, I would repeat the same choice.
Okay. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Hello everyone, my name is Nikita and welcome to Unacademy. आज के पॉडकास्ट में हमारे साथ जो ऑफिसर हैं, as ambassador and high commissioner, he has bridged nations. He's a diplomat, a visionary, and India's pride. I feel honored and privileged to invite a diplomat with a global footprint and a local heart. Let's hear it for Rahul Chhabra, sir. Hello, sir. Welcome to Unacademy. We are very honored to have you on our podcast today. So let's start with your inspiration. Who is your inspiration and why you joined IFS?
Yeah, thank you, Nikita, for having me on your podcast today. I am actually firstly a third generation civil servant.
Okay.
My grandfather was in the services, my father was an IAS officer, and I then joined the Foreign Service. So while he was an IAS officer, he had a posting in Japan, in Tokyo. Okay. I was a teenager at that time. So when I visited with him Tokyo, and that's where my fascination for the Foreign Service came and grew.
So in your childhood only you have been traveling with your family,
yes,
you know? So yes. You have seen that service.
A little bit I've seen services, administrative service, and then I got a chance to see the Foreign Service. So it is growing up in that environment. Yeah.
So how was your journey as an IFS?
It's been a beautiful journey. I've enjoyed every moment of it. In fact, if it had not been so, I wouldn't have been here today talking about it. So we have lived all over the world. I have now two boys. They live in the United States. Okay. Both are working. There were some phases where, maybe it didn't go off as I thought it would. But that's okay. That's like life. There are always a little bit of ebbs and flows. Yeah. But on the whole, it's been a great journey. I've enjoyed every moment of it. And if I was ever to live again and make another choice, I would repeat the same choice.
Okay. That's so sweet. So what are some of the primary roles and responsibility of an IFS?
It starts with the political aspect. So any visiting minister from India in any field, it can be health, trade, commerce, culture, science, any field, the embassy abroad will look after it. Mm-hmm. Similarly, the visit of any foreign minister to India, not foreign minister, and that's any minister dealing with any issue from abroad, again is dealt with by the embassy. So that's the political part of it. So you decide which visits to take place, when to take place, who will they meet, all that. What will they discuss? So then there is the economic wing. Okay. So they deal with trade treaties and stuff like that, economic, and there's a development partnership program that we have where we share a lot of funds and technology and all with other countries. So the economic wing is looking after that. Then we have the commercial wing. So the commercial wing really deals with purely trade issues, non-tariff barriers, how to increase imports, exports. We have the education wing, which deals with scholarships, children coming from India there, or foreign students coming to India, which is also a large number, which many people are not aware about. In fact, talking about scholarships, we are giving out about 15,000 scholarships every year India gives to foreign students, fully paid scholarships. So, so they come into India and to learn. Then we have the press wing, which deals, of course, with the press. Then we have the consular wing, which deals with passport, visas, because now we're getting into the public interface with the public. And then we have the cultural wing, where there are Indian dance performances, yoga, and all that stuff. So the last two, cultural and the consular wing, are really the public faces of the embassy. The rest is done more in the background with specific target audiences.
I've also heard that the passport is different. IFS.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have. Yeah, we have a red color passport.
color
So red
passport,
color
yeah.
passport. So it's a privilege given
Yeah.
to us. It's a diplomatic passport,
course.
which allows us, a lot of privileges at the airport and otherwise. And luckily, at my level, after retirement, me and my wife are both allowed to keep that diplomatic passport for life.
Okay.
So that's a hidden sort of perk for us.
Okay. वेलकम टू अनअकैडमी। मैं हूं अनअकैडमी के ORN सेंटर में। यहाँ पे यूपीएससी के टॉप फैकल्टी हैं और लर्नर का फीडबैक भी बहुत अच्छा है। नया बैच 29 मार्च को स्टार्ट होने वाला है, तो आप सेंटर विजिट कर सकते हैं इंक्वायरी के लिए। हिंदी मीडियम स्टूडेंट्स के लिए अनअकैडमी का सेंटर मुखर्जी नगर में भी है। नया बैच 27 मार्च को शुरू हो रहा है, वहाँ पे भी आप इंक्वायरी के लिए विजिट कर सकते हैं। अनअकैडमी का एक सेंटर प्रयागराज में भी है, जिसका बैच 1 अप्रैल से शुरू हो रहा है। अपनी प्रिपरेशन को बेस्ट चांस देने के लिए आज ही अनअकैडमी के सेंटर विजिट कीजिए। अगर आप ORN में हैं तो ORN में, मुखर्जी नगर है तो मुखर्जी नगर में, और अगर आप प्रयागराज में हैं तो प्रयागराज विजिट कीजिए। तीनों सेंटर की लोकेशन डिस्क्रिप्शन में डाल दी गई। सो कैन यू प्रोवाइड एन ओवरव्यू ऑन द करंट स्टेट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक रिलेशंस बिटवीन इंडिया एंड अदर की कंट्रीज एंड रीजन्स?
Let's address the dragon in the room first. Let's take China.
Yeah.
So China, we have trade of over $100 billion. But it's completely imbalanced. Only about $20 billion of Indian exports to China, and they sell over $80 billion to us. Okay. So it's completely imbalanced. So that's one part of trade with one country. Another large country, if you look at United States, there we have trade in goods and services, because lots of IT services are sold there. That's about $160 billion of trade as goods and services, but we have a surplus there. So whereas here we have a huge deficit, here we have a small surplus with the United States. Then one last country I thought I'll just mention, let's look at Bhutan. Bhutan actually generates electricity, so much hydroelectric, they can't use it. So most of the per capita income of Bhutan comes because India buys that electricity at commercial rates and pays them the normal rate, that Bhutanese are able to enjoy a good standard of living with just, the natural resources, which is hydroelectric electricity. So we try to sell that model to Nepal and Bangladesh and other countries, that, if we can deal so well with like Bhutan, then why don't we do it? So it's now beginning with Nepal also and all that. So they're different countries, each country has its own sort of peculiarities.
So what are the major challenges and opportunities India faces in terms of enhancing Indian cooperation with other nations?
So there are with each country, it's a different, as I mentioned, these three big is different. So there are always, because the other country is looking at their interests, firstly. So you have to sort of overcome that, what they have. Then what we shouldn't ever forget is that they are being approached by our competitors. So, so they can't do some special favor to us, which may not be, the minute it comes out in public domain, which nowadays, with every social media and otherwise also will come out, and WTO rules and norms are there. So if they make some particular offer to us, the same offer has to be made to other competing countries. So there are those sort of issues to be dealt with also. So each situation is situation specific. So you'll have to deal with those issues as they come up when the situation demands. So all of them have their own nuances.
So how did living and working in different countries influence your diplomatic style?
I was lucky in that sense. I worked in Belgium, I worked in France, I worked in Washington, DC. So it was more the Western world, so to speak, more open, more free, frank, discuss, democracies, we could talk. So I think that made my style like that, so I'm more open, free to talk. The people who sort of spent the first few years of their life with, let's say, Soviet Union at that time, China, so you might find my colleagues, they may be a little more reserved in their way of talking, interacting, because that really shapes the first few years, as you rightly said, shapes how you, in the end, end up at the end. So they have their own sort of prejudices, and which may be correct also, because in diplomacy you have to be careful. You can't be too open, you can't talk about everything. So I guess everybody strikes the right balance and then we go ahead with that. Yeah.
So how do you handle diplomacy with organizations like the UN Environment Program and World Economic Forum?
Yeah, firstly you have to understand that there are two aspects of diplomacy. One is bilateral and one is multilateral. So bilateral is just one country with one country. The two examples you gave are multilateral. But within the multilateral also there are huge differences. Like the UN Environment Program, you are trying to formulate a common position, all countries of the world, 150, 160 countries, 190 countries actually in the world, but UN Environment has that many numbers. So all those countries want have, at the end, the objective is to come out with a common position. So you have your red lines, which you can't cross as India when you negotiate, but you have to do some give and take. So you're trying to do that and then come up with a common, how do you deal with environmental issues, plastic pollution, air pollution, water, marine life, all that. Then in the other example you took was the World Economic Forum in Davos. There you're actually trying to compete with other countries to get that same FDI investment, FII investment, get large corporates, get other countries to be more interested in coming to India. So that is a completely different sort of multilateral engagement than this type of multilateral engagement. So both are, though they are multilateral, they're both different in that sense.
What were the main challenges and opportunities in the service? There must be so much challenges.
That's true. But the best way to deal with any challenge, at least I feel, is to turn it into an opportunity and look at it as an opportunity.
Okay.
For example, you go to a foreign country, the first challenge is the language. So I learned French, which is part of the requirement also. So then in Belgium, Paris, Dakar, these are all francophone countries. So you sort of overcome the language barrier, so to speak. Similarly, there are cultural differences. So while they are different, they are challenged, but you look at an opportunity to learn what they are like. The biggest other challenge really on a personal level is like you're away from your family for long spells of time and quite far away. So major events happening in India, weddings, birthdays, mundans, all these ceremonies, you can't be part of. Of course, now with all this video and all that, it's easier. Those days, there was not even a cell phone. So, even landlines were, I don't know, it was before you were born maybe, but, those landlines were quite tough to get through those numbers. So, we were cut off completely. So, we were just thrown at the deep end in that sense. But you learn to adjust and, you see it as an opportunity. You learn, imbibe the best of them. You convey that to your family back home when you meet them. They come to visit you. There are more chances for them to visit you because you're there. So it's really an opportunity in that sense. It opens their eyes to the rest of the world. So that way, it's every challenge becomes an opportunity to sort of grow and be better yourself.
You said that languages, there's a necessity to learn other languages.
One language.
One language.
One language is necessary.
Additional language.
So, other than English and Hindi, what we know, one foreign language after joining the service.
Okay. Yeah, how does the Indian Foreign Service contribute to India's long-term goals?
So what is India's long-term goal? I mean, it's basically we have to grow together in the world. We are one. It's one. There's no planet B, as they say. There's just this planet, and we got to protect it. So save it for the future generations. And so, in that context, what we do abroad is try to get for India, like in the context of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. It's part of our brain. So you try and get the best of trade, technology, try and get the best of knowledge back to India, what you can get from there, and try and give them what we are good at. So there's an exchange going on because we aren't obviously best at everything. The world is not best at it. Everybody has its own best and not so good. So you try and match and get the best for each. So in that sense, that's our job, to sort of locate what are those places where we can contribute. Indian thinking, philosophy, yoga, technology, frugal innovation. So, all that, agriculture, we've done so much, green revolution. So all that in many countries, that'll work in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia. It obviously won't work in Europe because they have different setting. But there we will gain getting their technology, getting their knowledge, their way of structuring organizations. So that sort of. So we are doing that matchmaking all the time.
So how do you deal with security risks in your diplomacy work?
Yeah, it happens not so often, but I lost a very good friend and a colleague of mine in Afghanistan. His car was just coming to the embassy gate and there was a bomb blast. I don't know if you recollect, but about 15-20 years back, the bomb blew up and he's died. I mean, so it's sad, it happens. But recently, till just before I retired, I went to Somalia. I went with my wife, and that's called there's a green zone. So the government allows you to live in that green zone. You have bulletproof vehicles, you have full security guards. And in that green zone also, it's quite interesting. There are no, it's called a hotel, but it's not a hotel. It's actually a 20-foot container, in which your luggage goes and they're actually containers. You actually spend the night and sleep and spend 2 nights, 3 nights, as long as you stay in those containers.
Oh my God.
So it's quite a different thing. And the first place they show you is a bunker and all that. So when you go to these zones and all, it's dangerous and risky. But hopefully we take enough precaution. The government provides you enough security and all that. So you're able to, I mean, these incidents don't happen that often. Unfortunately, there was this incident and I lost one, and there have been 1 or 2 other cases before that. But otherwise, you're provided and you go generally in a safe zone.
So does the situation like these makes you uncomfortable and makes you think that let's quit this job, or does these kind of thoughts come into your mind when you face these kind of situations?
No, at least not in my case. But you're right, in some people would rather not go. So the government doesn't force you 100% that you have to go there. It was sort of, I said, look, why not I go? It was part of my territory and my beat, and I wanted to go and, see what's happening there. Because if I'm doing an honest job, then staying away from a position is, I mean, you can be safe and nobody's pushing you and forcing you to go into that, step into that. But if you don't actually step in and see what's happening there, how will you report to Delhi and, understand what is happening there? How can we contribute? How do we intervene? I mean, you don't even know what's happening there.
True.
So you need to actually go there. And since you asked this question, I'll just tell you, we went actually to, and we, again, after that I went back again.
Okay.
Second time, despite the birth.
So you have that courage.
Maybe I was being a little too brave. Most people, diplomats in Nairobi, said it's not a good idea and stay away. But I actually ran a visa camp.
Okay.
And these are medical visas. Those people have got very minimal medical facilities, but because of Somalia, a lot of people have lost their limbs, their arms, their legs. So they need to get it fixed somewhere. So they come to India, they come with someone.
Okay.
They will stay for 2-3 months because, getting a limb fitted is not an overnight operation and all that. So 2 people will come, pay for hotel, pay for hospital, In that 1-day visa camp, we had over 250 people who we gave visas to, who would then come to India. And we just did a rough calculation, probably earned $1 million. India probably earned $1 million because I went there and did that. But nobody realizes that, But I asked these guys that supposing I had not come and done this visa camp, what would you people have done? Because this was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is not even Mogadishu. I went to a town called Garowe. So it was really, and there was security, they're really, local government had given me, because they knew I was coming for their benefit, to give their people the visas. So they, in fact, it was quite interesting. Like, let's assume we were living right in the center here. For a 4-kilometer radius, no vehicle was allowed to come into that thing, because car bombs go off and all. So ours was the only vehicles that went to the guest house. Everybody else had to stop here and walk for 4 kilometers. So, but then, and people wanted, 200 people, 250 people in wheelchairs, on crutches and all, came that many kilometers in the hot sun to come and get an Indian visa in the middle of Somalia in Garowe. But that guest house where we were staying was completely on the roof, ringed by security guards, all with proper machine guns, bulletproof, this, that. So they gave me full security, because they also don't want a problem that Indian diplomat, Indian ambassador in the middle of this thing gets, something happens. So they made sure that nothing happened. But we ended up giving them 250 visas. And these guys so I was coming to the point, I said, what would you do if I did not come? Then they said, sir, then we would have gone to Malaysia, we would have gone to Turkey. There are other options. So we shouldn't ever think that, that there's no other option. So if you don't go and do the work, the same money, same whatever, these people are ready to pay. And we are not giving them free treatment. All these guys are coming, they will pay for their hospital, they'll pay for their hotel. But you got to be there to give them the visa at least. Otherwise, how will they come? So he said we would have gone to Malaysia or Turkey. These 2 countries they specifically mentioned.
That's the very lesser known facts.
So it's interesting. So then,
this is really
nobody asked me to go there. That's the other part. Nobody in Delhi.
But sir, when we see situations like this, then the thought of quitting job, or no, this is not meant for me, and what if something happens to me? This thought comes to
didn't come to my mind, but it may come to some people's mind. They could, if you're not used to it and you're not, if you're not mentally prepared, it could happen.
Yeah, I can feel that courage and
little bit. You feel that you're there. The government has vested so much faith in you.
Of course.
If you can't stand up to it, then people may back out. But as I said, nobody asked me to go there.
Yeah.
I volunteered. Then in my embassy also, I asked, I'm going. Is anybody ready to come?
Okay.
So because I can't force anybody to come. So some people clearly said we are not coming. We have family. Sir, it's not safe. We are not coming. I said, look, I'm not forcing you. So I'm now asking for volunteers. But enough people volunteered. They said, sir, we will come with you. So they came and we conducted the camp. But there were people who said we are not coming. We are staying back here. We will not come with you. So, okay.
That's interesting. Yeah. How do you maintain relations with countries that have conflicting interests?
Let's take the one we have maybe the biggest conflict, Pakistan.
Okay, yeah, of course.
No, people will like to avoid, but no. So what do you do with them? You play cricket with them, do some Bollywood with them, do some Kathak with them. So try and maintain people-to-people contact. Let's say there's an earthquake there. You send them some medicine, send them some goodwill. So basically, what is it? It's basically like you maintain with your people. You don't want to make an enemy just like that. He's got his historical reasons to be upset with you in your family, my family. But then you're nice, polite, civil. Maybe in a few years, and 1 generation, 2 generation, it'll go away. So till then, we should at least be nice to each other and try and maintain some dialogue, some civility. So that's all you can do. So you can't assume that you will suddenly overnight change that entire country, and they have their own restrictions, their own compulsions. So we do whatever within our powers. As I said, you organize a Bollywood movie show, get some film stars, play a cricket match, do things like that. Keep the conversation going. The main thing of diplomacy is you have to talk. If you're not talking, then there's no need of diplomacy. Then what is there? Then there's nothing. You're not talking. I'm upset with you. I will not talk to you. Then there's nothing to be done. But when you sit and talk, so something will come out. No? Something common, something which you like. So slowly the ice will break. You melt but it might take long in some cases faster.
So sir, in these years, do you really feel the difference between India and Pakistan's relations?
It goes ups and downs.
Okay.
So there have been periods when it's been very good. We've had trade, we've had things. Their rulers change, people change. The main thing is that they have this army which is in charge, and we have a civilian. So when I sit on this side, I'm thinking, Bollywood, cricket, all that. That man is thinking tanks, terrorists, jihadi, how do I infiltrate? So he's thinking on a different plane. So I'm trying to think that how do I, but I still continue, give them visas, open Kartarpur Sahib, let them come to our Gurdwaras. We go to their, Gurdwaras which are there. So we try and, whatever little opening you can get, people can go medical. Like often we get some children from there for some treatment which they can't do. So these are goodwill gestures to just keep the conversation going and to show that, we aren't that bad, and they are also not that bad. So they have their own military rulers, they've got to change their thing, they have elections. However, they are trying to adjust and do. Finally, people are the same on both sides. Here to even more same, but people in the world, my foreign services taught me that everybody is the same. All of us are human beings, which have very certain basic similar characteristics. Nobody is interested in a war, fight. Everybody wants to, have a nice, comfortable, peaceful, But then everybody is thrust in a different place, so they have to take their positions. So in that sense.
So sir, how do cultural ties help India's diplomacy?
We have basically I don't know if you're aware, but we have a huge organization called the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, ICCR. ICCR, you might have heard about that. So they are taking a lot of troops outside, sending people outside, and visiting troops here. They organize for them across India, shows and performances and all that. So again, that is like an icebreaker for those. And then even to further, so even though you may have trade, commerce, everything, at the end of it, culture is an important part of understanding where does the other person come from, what does he, what is his background, how does he live. So all this comes through culture. Food festival, so when you try the other person's food, like why do we all like Chinese or Italian, all that. They also like Indian, so that is all part of the sort of getting to know each other and realizing that, these are all common things which bind us. So they also like, their way of cooking and we have our way. So each one learns each other. So it plays a huge role. So in addition, like this ICCR, we also in every embassy, we have cultural centers, sort of smaller ones, where a lot of foreign children or adults come to learn dance, come to learn tabla, even come to learn Hindi. So all this is going on all the time in the background, which is really not publicly known out here, that we are running these classes in foreign embassies, Indian embassies abroad, where foreign students are coming to attend. And in some cases, even pay to attend those classes.
And also, sir, in this digital world, this is becoming more easier to ties,
Correct.
to...
They can continue their learning after
Yeah.
they come for a few classes, get immersed, and then they go back, and because they come from far off towns also, that's true, very true. They then log in and continue with that.
So how do you tackle disinformation about India?
That's true.
Humors, yeah.
So one of the ways I felt and I was doing, and I still keep doing, like now I'm talking to you, and I go to universities.
Okay.
So I used to always, because I thought that was the right place to high schools, universities. So when people are still young and open-minded, they are ready to listen to the other side. Views are fully formed. So that is one. Or like when I went right in the beginning, when I just started my career in Belgium, Brussels, people would ask my wife, oh, do you drive in India? Really? Women can drive cars? So then you explain to them, look, we even had a woman prime minister. We had Rani Ki Jhansi, who fought the British. So what are you talking about driving car? So in our job, it's all the time you're trying to sort of change their perception about India. Some cases it may not be disinformation, but they don't have the information, or it's wrong, it's limited, or they just have a misperception. So you try to correct it in whichever way you can. Yeah.
So, sir, how do you handle cybersecurity concern in diplomatic communication?
We have multiple levels of communication. So one is we have normal encrypted communication, so it goes in encryption. And then if it's really highly sensitive and top secret communication, it goes in code. Okay. So we have a coded system. Okay. So it's quite safe, I think. Yeah. It's not been broken into, I hope.
How does trade diplomacy help India's strategic goal?
Because again, like what is our strategic goal? As I said, to grow together with everybody else, not just that we are growing in ourselves, we have a full this thing. So in that sense, you may have heard that 10 days back we signed this India-EFTA trade agreement that is 4 countries of Europe, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, Iceland. So we got that. Now we're looking at India, EU, India, UK. Before that we had the UAE. So we have with Australia trade agreements. So all these help in promoting trade. Then investments, how to get in foreign investments to sort of push our goal. But more from the purely strategic angle, like for example, vaccine Maitri. When we gave out vaccines. So I mean, we gave out vaccines, we helped the world in that sense, over 100 countries. But they also got to know that, we have a huge pharma sector. Our pharma sector is quite developed. It's reasonable cost. So it has a strategic objective. So this is always at the back of your mind. So India's trade diplomacy in that sense works towards improving projecting India abroad in all senses, including in this sense. So people would have just thought about it, oh, vaccines have gone, but then implicit in that was obviously that your pharma is so strong that you can match up to a Pfizer or other vaccine with your Covaxin is as good. And it is that you can do 100 vaccinations for the cost of one foreign vaccine. And they probably, and now it's coming out, maybe it is even more effective than the Pfizer vaccine. So, so all these things help in the long-term strategic, the trade diplomacy, this part of trade diplomacy.
So, sir, have you also observed that over these years, the image of India or the perception across the world about India is changing?
It is changing, and it'll definitely. When I joined 35 years back, it was obviously we were not really so developed. So we are developing, and so as you go on, every 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it is bound to change because you will get more and more stronger, powerful, bigger. Your diaspora gets stronger. So everybody is sort of, the economy is growing. So it is going to change, and it is changing all the time. Yeah.
Sir, how has the service changed you as a person?
Yeah, I think I've become much more like, I speak French. I learned French. So I've started, observing more of the Francophone part of the world. But after that, then I posted in China, I was posted in Africa. So then you start keeping your mind open, Because once it's open, then you're open to everyone, everything. You not just partly open to just this part. So you accept other people's viewpoints. You understand that there is another viewpoint, which may be equal to yours, maybe better than yours also. So you should be able to have that capability to be able to appreciate that. Looks when somebody else is making a point, firstly let him make a point, and then try and weight vis-a-vis your whatever issue you're making, and see how does it compare. Is there anything good in what he's saying? So in that sense, if you just different aspects in India, to show respect, for example, you bow down and touch the elder's feet. In Japan, you just bow. You don't touch the feet.
Yeah.
So you might feel, oh, he's not showing enough respect, he's not touching feet, but it's not. It's just the extent of the bow. In China, when you're like in the evening, when you're clinking your champagne glasses, the level at which the guy will clink the glass will show you how much respect he has for you.
Okay.
So you may not even observe it, but he's putting it below. Firstly, moving your glass above, he's keeping his glass below yours. But how much he keeps below is the amount of respect he has for you.
Okay.
So there's these little things you learn in different cultures, different
This is really interesting.
Yeah. So you have to go to pick that up and then figure out that, oh, that's what he's doing. He's this thing. But you can miss it. If you don't have an open mind and you're not listening, seeing, observing. So you learn these, and then it becomes part of you. Like whenever you meet and you try to do it. No, that's a good idea. So I actually follow it, even if I'm not meeting a Chinese.
Okay.
So when I'm doing it with anybody who I want to show respect,
anyways,
I automatically put it below. So he may or may not realize it. If he realizes, well and good. If he doesn't, it's okay. I mean, I'm just showing respect to him. That's all. I don't lose anything. By touching anyone's feet or bowing, you're not losing anything. You're just so you're just showing respect, being civil. So.
That's interesting. Considering demanding nature of this job, mental health really get disturbed in this service. So what measures are taken to address the mental health and well-being of IFS officer considering, the demanding of this job?
Firstly, the ambassador is there. He's a very seasoned diplomat. He's seen through all this. So whenever new officers come or mid-level officers also come, the ambassador is pretty much watching you, monitoring you. His wife is speaking to your spouse. So you're really like a family. So it's not that you've just landed and you're at the loose end and nobody's concerned about you, which might happen in a corporate setting. But in an embassy setting, it's quite different. Where, as I said, me, my wife, so we are all the time looking at any new person. It doesn't have new officers, staff, even the stenotypists, everybody who comes, they're all sort of incorporated as a family. We live, because we are outside and all of us know that, we've all left our real family behind. So that sort of, for those few months, years, that becomes your family. So we celebrate Diwali together, Holi together. So that social binding and knitting amongst us becomes quite strong.
Okay.
And that's where you really get to know a person, because you often meet in the weekends, you go on picnics together, so you have so if anybody is having any personal issues, they're encouraged to meet the ambassador. I would follow that policy anyway. My door is always open. If not, the lady could meet my wife, if they had any issues with their children, anything, whatever. So that was one thing. And then, of course, if you really need medical attention of any kind, then the government allows you to go to the best medical treatment abroad. So there's no, you're not really constrained in that sense. The government allows you to access the best medical facilities.
So you also mentioned that you have traveled with your family as a child because your family, your parent was diplomat. So how challenging it was as a child also, traveling when your parents are in the service? Is it challenging, or is it like you had fun traveling all over the world?
Yeah, good point. More than mine, because my father was in the IAS. He had one posting abroad.
Okay.
But my children, I can talk about more, the two
Okay.
kids who actually traveled all over the world with us. And me, of course, went just a little bit. But I think, because in 3 years, so firstly, every posting of ours is normally 3 years. So even when we travel within India, sort of, it's 2 to 4 years, 5 years. But abroad, it's 3 years. So you don't have too much time to settle in. So whether it's a school setting or wherever, office or anything, it's very quick. You got to adjust. So you can't spend enough time settling in. So within a few days or weeks, sort of, you're already settled. So children also in a school, say settled. So, and it's quite tough. I mean, it's, as you very rightly pointed out, that how would a child? So, can you imagine walking into a classroom every 3 years? It's a new set of people all around, new teacher. It's not a blackboard now. It's those, those fancy board, or in some other place it's a blackboard. It's new books. It's completely different.
Everything is different.
You just walk in and it's a brand new environment. And pretty much we used to land in a day or two. The child is in school, so you're still getting over jet lag and thinking, there's no jet lag and all that. You're there, come back, homework, and so it's very quick. Then the friends you make, sort of you lose them. So the child will feel a little lost, and then you come in, and then you're again trying to make new friends. But on the other hand, the other children now, because the children often go to international schools, so everybody is moving like that. So at any moment of time, there's a change happening. So that is one thing that is because in international schools, so that's good. But otherwise, earlier we used to go to other schools, local schools. There it was tougher because then groups were already made, and you try to break into that group. But now, because of international schools, there are so many of them all over the world, and the government does pay for it. It's pretty expensive, those schools, but the government pays for those schools. So you sort of easier to settle in because there are more children who are like you. So it's much easier now to settle in. And you don't really lose your children, your friendships now because of Facebook and all that. Yeah. So everybody keeps
the connectivity
stays on.
Yeah. So one change if you would like to make in this service, what would you make?
Some countries have this system of postings. Before postings, they have a sort of a full board which sits and they interview people for the postings.
Okay.
Like a UPSC. UPSC only interviews first level for entering the service. After that, postings is pretty much done. So people always feel that, why am I discriminated against? Why did X get this and why didn't, all that. So that would be gone if you actually had a UPSC type of board which sat and actually interviewed people and spent much more time and effort in posting people, which I think today there are many people who feel upset. Maybe sometimes I also felt upset that why did I go here or why not there or whatever. But in the long run, it all evens out. But if it had to be more professionalized, and as you mentioned one point, I think that may be one good idea to start. It'll make everyone feel that it's a fair and transparent system. So, and you can make your best foot forward, put your best foot forward. So it's not just because you know somebody or you get a good posting. You actually made your point, and then the best man wins after that.
Of course. So, sir, one advice you would like to give to UPSC aspirant to look up to IFS?
I would say that go in with an open mind, be ready to absorb whatever is there. I've done an MBA from IIM Calcutta.
Okay.
So I'm an MBA from IIM. So, and of course a master's in Delhi School of Economics. So I could have joined the corporate sector, like many of my, in fact most of my colleagues joined the corporate sector. So I am here out of choice. I actually wanted to be in the foreign service. So it's a good service. It's a very good service. And before you opt for other services, maybe, because check with talk to other people also. So don't just blindly go, because now after retirement, I meet many of my colleagues who say, look, we wish we had spoken to, we had guidance, like I had my dad's guidance and all. They didn't have full guidance. They didn't really talk and check out so much. They blindly followed a little bit, whatever, and went into whichever service they chose finally. Now they're saying, oh, we should have maybe taken the foreign service. But now it's too late, of course. So I would give this bit of advice to anybody who's opting, that check out, do your homework well, and be absolutely convinced where you're stepping in. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for this amazing podcast. It is all my pleasure and, of course, the audience pleasure to hear you. And it was really, really amazing. I'm really honored. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.